We're in the TechCrunch studio today with Michael Karnjanaprakorn of Skillshare. Michael, welcome to the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Skillshare is one of my favorite companies. I'll just say
Awesome.
that right off the bat. Love what you guys are doing, and
Appreciate that.
we've been emailing a lot to get you in here and sort of built today around you. So welcome to San Francisco.
Thank you.
I know you live in New York City, where I used to live. I think the most interesting thing to talk about Skillshare for this particular segment is to talk about Skillshare as a platform business and how you guys got it to become a marketplace, right? And I think as we talk about how you guys did that, there'll be some interesting lessons for other people out there who are building other kinds of platforms and other kinds of marketplaces, right? That maybe are similar or tangential to what Skillshare is doing.
Yeah, definitely. Just to give you a quick background in Skillshare as well, Skillshare is a global learning community of real-world skills and classes. So it's a platform that allows anyone to teach an in-person class or an online class to thousands of students around the world. And the classes range from anything from building your first iPhone app to making meatballs with the Meatball Shop, which is a great restaurant in New York. But I would say we've learned a lot over the past couple of years around building platforms and building a marketplace. So the marketplace aspect comes into play when a teacher puts up a class and sells tickets to a seller, which is a buyer, which is a student. And the platform is kind of very akin to what you would see on Kickstarter, where they give you the tools that allows you to raise hundreds or millions of dollars through their platform. And through the combination of those two things is kind of how we've been kind of perceiving and growing and thinking about the strategy behind how we grow Skillshare in the long run.
Okay, and so let's talk in the early days when you started building up the platform, right? I mean, you wanted to create, let's say, the tools, right?
Yeah.
Or the best tools for someone who has knowledge to come onto Skillshare and say, hey, I'm going to create content, right? Or just start to distribute content on Skillshare, right? And then your promise is to send them a bunch of buyers or students, right? So how do you start with that two-sided marketplace, right? Because this is always what people go through. It's chicken and an egg. It's a little bit different in your case, right? Because you're taking kind of a classroom model, right?
Yeah.
Here, but how do you start to attack that, right? Because I think a lot of people want to do that, and then they just go, I don't know how to do that.
It's maybe we could break it up into three buckets. So there's like the early days, which I call like the seeding the market. Okay. And then there's figuring how to scale, and there's scaling. So we could, for this one, talk about, if I could sum it up, it's really rolling your sleeves up and just getting it done. I think in the early days of Skillshare, when we started thinking of the marketplace, there's a lot of different ways we could have approached it. Obviously it was two-sided, and we could have went after both sides. We could have went after the students or the teachers, and what didn't work was trying to do everything at once. So the strategy that we picked was, let's go after the teachers, get them on the platform, and since they're kind of an expert in their own category, their skill, or they're well known for what they're doing, they're going to pull in the students for us. If Fred Wilson at Union Square taught a class, it's pretty much guaranteed that he's going to get a lot of students within the tech and the startup community. So in the early days, it was just getting a lot of our friends to teach, and reaching out to people on our own and doing everything we could to get them on the platform. And once we got them on the platform, I mean, when I say we did everything from working with them on their syllabus. We found venues for them. We helped them price it. We did everything that reduced the friction.
You started offline. There were offline classes, right?
And so Skillshare, when we started, we're all in person. So we did it as much as we could to reduce the friction for the teachers. And once we started putting those classes out, since they had their own networks, they started pulling in the students for us. And then students would come into the community, and they would see other classes. So that
was a calculated move you guys made to say, okay, we're going to actually find these people with their own networks. They'll eventually become customers on our in our marketplace.
And there's a lot of other ways you could approach it, but that's the way we definitely did it. And then after a while, what you'll start seeing is you can't do that forever, because it's just not scalable. And I physically in the early days could probably get if I really worked hard, probably like 10 to 20 classes a month. And that took a lot of coordination. And if you do basic math, you could say, well, if you hire 10 people, you get 200 classes a month. And then after a while, you have to start figuring out how do you transition from very human labor intensive to very like platform scalable solutions. And that's the transition that I would say we're in today.
And so what kind of changes are you making to make that transition in the product?
Yeah, I think when we started thinking of building Skillshare as a platform, obviously making it very open, very flexible, giving the tools to the teachers, making a great experience for the student online and in person. One thing we started thinking about is like, okay, so if we shift from being very hands-on to being very hands-off, there's a certain amount of things that our users can do for us. For example, right now, rather than hiring, I would say, like 100 community managers to monitor all the online discussions. We're building tools in that allows our community to like curate the best questions and answers, upload their own resources. So if we're taking a photography class and I was a student, I could upload, a cool article I found, and other students can see that. Putting things into place like that. So I think in the early days, the biggest risk for a marketplace is just getting it up and running. And usually what will happen, it'll get up and running and then it'll usually die out. You're just trying to keep it like your head above water. Once you get there, it starts kind of moving up. And that's when I think you really start scaling, just trying to figure out solutions like that.
Got it, right. And so really focusing on product improvements, taking people from the company, let's say on the services side, and sort of abstracting away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. And so now you guys are 16 employees, right, in New York City. How are you also growing the team, right? Because you've now been doing this, what, a couple years?
Yeah, 2 years now.
Okay, 2 years. And how are you thinking about growth of the company? What stage are you at?
Yeah.
How do you look at the next few years? Because since the first time we met a few years ago, now, education online is a big space, and people are talking about, what is it, massive open
the
online
MOOCs,
courses.
massive open online courses.
So, there's a lot of companies in the space, right? And there's a lot of great companies of that. But I'd just be curious, as an entrepreneur who is trying to guide their own startup through this, like how do you think through all that? Yeah,
it's a really good question that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And the best way I could explain it, it's like being in a really intense poker match or chess game, where every move kind of matters. But you obviously don't want to overplay your hand. And I think with the online education space, I definitely think has exploded over the past 6 to 12 months. And we launch online classes about 6 months. I would say we do kind of play in that space. But if it was a baseball game, I would say we're in the top of the first inning. If you look at history, remember that Google wasn't the first search engine and Facebook wasn't the first social network. But what I do think happens on the internet, it's like if you think of it like a town, and Facebook built the community, AOL built the roads to get on the internet. I think what's happening right now is we're trying to the internet, the foundation has been set, and they're trying to build a school online. And usually what happens in those scenarios is what usually happens in the real world. There's some aspects you can move online that works. But the internet has a whole different set of rules and a different way people learn online and different way people interact because it's global and everything's about sharing and being connected. Yeah. So I think what will happen over the next 18 months is trying to figure out how that works online and for us to stay true to our vision and where we want to go with our company and figuring out what levers we want to pull to get there.
What is the vision of where you want to go?
Yeah, if I could sum it up in one line, is learn anything from anyone, anywhere in the world. And for us, making it very open and flexible, but also making it very, very affordable. Education shouldn't cost $40,000 or $50,000, and someone in Somalia should be able to take a class from someone in New York, and be able to have that opportunity as well.
Got it. Are you seeing kind of a side question, but are you seeing teachers who are teaching classes, if they have a student that's maybe in a part of the world where the cost would be prohibitive, using different pricing models to
I think we're starting to see a lot of things on the teaching side,
and they can set their own price and everything.
So teachers can set their own price, which is another key component of marketplaces. And we're starting to see teachers, we had one teacher that made $40,000 teaching one online class. We've had another teacher break $100,000 teaching a year. But what we're starting to see is a lot of topics that you wouldn't traditionally learn, let's say in school, because some small committee deem that not worth learning.
Right.
Those are the topics that are starting to pop up.
Right. Like you don't learn geography in high school.
So like a lot of those topics that you wanted to learn, like you really were passionate about, but you just couldn't because you had to learn trigonometry for some reason. Those are the classes that are starting to pop up. So I think. That's great. A lot of the access we're seeing is access into skills or topics that you actually want to learn that you were never able to before.
Right. So better choice from the user or the student, and kind of in a flexible format.
Exactly.
So let's step back from Skillshare a little bit in the last part of this. Let's say you could address 100 different founders who are trying to build some kind of online marketplace. Let's say it's mobile, web, whatever. What are like the 2 or 3 things you would just tell them as kind of lessons learned from Skillshare? That you could save them some heartache.
I would say if there's 2 or 3 things. I think one is just focus. Focus is really, really key because there's 100 different things that you could possibly do, from building your product to figuring out how you want to seed your marketplace. But I think when you really, really focus, it really keeps you in line and kind of like deflects all the other things that you could do. And I think what a lot of founders will do in the early days is they'll kind of just float around and they'll go all over the place, just trying to find some type of traction. But if you're really focused and you really plow through that, usually you'll emerge successful. And I think the second is something you couldn't really control, but timing is really, 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 really important, I feel. If you're starting an idea, maybe the timing's not right for you in your career, maybe the timing's not right in the market, but really considering timing is like another aspect. And the third is something we instilled in the very, very early days is really focusing on the culture of the company. And one of our core values at Skillshare is we is greater than I. And what that means is like our team is really, really important. So even if you are the LeBron James of your field or whatever you're hired to do, if you can't fit in our team, then you're not going to really work out well.
And so what about specifically for marketplace or platform businesses that would be sort of lessons learned you would share?
Yeah, I would say reducing friction and getting to liquidity as fast as possible is the most important thing.
Okay.
Because once marketplaces hit liquidity and they hit network effects, they become very, very monopolistic. That's why you see eBay, Etsy, Craigslist still to this day has not been taken down and probably won't be taken down for a very long time. So once you get to that stage of your business, that's probably where all the fun happens, where you focus on scaling and growing. But to get there is a pretty long journey.
Totally. Well, Michael, congratulations on all the success and for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah.